So currently, my friend Bryn and I are working on this project for a phone company called OnePlus. And yesterday, we went out on a shoot to the desert with some dirt bikers and some Land Rovers, and we got a bunch of really cool footage. So I thought that this would be a perfect time to show you guys my exact workflow from importing the new clips into my project and cutting them down in the cut tab, as well as making any kind of little modifications or adjustments to individual clips that I might do at this stage. I thought that this would be a good lesson because you guys can see the raw, unedited process of me importing footage and what goes through my mind when I'm making my selects and these adjustments to the individual clips. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. So in this project, we are using two phones, and I already dumped them. I made a new folder, which was yesterday, and dirt biking. And you can see in here that we have two folders. One folder is for the footage that was shot natively on the actual phone, like with the native app that comes with the phone. And then there's another folder for a third-party app that we're using called Filmic Pro that lets you shoot in a flatter picture profile and just like make different adjustments to your bitrate and things like that. So I'm gonna go into my DaVinci project file here, and first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to close these open folders here. I'm just gonna close the master folder. So I'm just gonna go back to that folder here, and I'm gonna take the root folder 210815 dirt biking Atlantis, and I'm going to drag it into this area here. That way it's going to be made into a new folder in the master folder. So we can see that that folder is here now. Double click it. We have both the folders in there as well. Now that all of my footage is in my media pool here, the first thing I'm going to do is create proxies for all of this. So I'm going to select it all, right click, generate proxy media. Now that proxies are done, we can go into the cut tab. Now I'm going to go to the cut tab, and I'm just going to hit Command N. Now it doesn't matter where you are in the media pool when you're making a new timeline, because the new timelines always default go into the main root folder in the media pool. So it doesn't matter what folder you're in when you're making a new one. So we're going to call this the same thing. So 210815. So what I'm doing is just copying the name of the folder. And because we have our project settings set already, we can just click create. And now we have our timeline. I'm just going to drag that into timelines. And we have that timeline open here as well. You can know that by seeing the name of the timeline right up here. And we're able to switch through the different timelines whenever we want. So I'm going to go into Dirt Biking Atlantis. I'm going to first grab the first folder. Let's drag all of that in there. And then I'm going to go back, drag the other one, Command A. We could just hit 6 to throw it all in where the timeline sits. And now is the time to start actually sorting through the footage. So I'm actually turning on KeyCaster so you guys can see what shortcuts I'm using while I'm doing this. So I'm at the start of the timeline. I'm just going to press play, 3 to move forwards. And this is just stuff that we got at the beginning of the shoot. I guess this is like test stuff. Don't need that first clip. There's nothing there. I'm going to hit S to ripple delete it. S to ripple delete that too. I guess these are just like little moments for BTS stuff. So I'm going to keep little bits of it, but don't really need too much of it. So like I said, Q is to cut left of playhead. E is to cut to the right of the playhead. I got two similar clips here. I'm just going to delete the first one. I don't really need more than that. So I'm using 1, 2, and 3 to move forwards and backwards in the timeline. Now, these clips at the start, they might look okay. I was on the actual shoot, and I know how many bangers we got out there, so I don't really need a lot of this stuff. And I'm also trying to trim it down because I know that this project is only going to be about 2 minutes in length. So there's really no need for me to save a lot of this footage. I only want like the best stuff and also just like good stuff that I would use for the BTS section of this video as well. So just like little moments here that I might want to use for BTS. Camera pans from me to my friend Craig. Cool little moment there. You can see me on the phone. Q cut the beginning of that. There's nothing there that I want. and E. Now, sorry if there's a bit of lag on this, guys. I am recording on my computer using OBS, so that does suck a bit of the power out of it. Cool little moment there. I'm going to isolate that, and I'm just going to be moving forward. So that was kind of cool when this guy comes in, the other dirt biker, for a moment there. That looks good. Let's isolate that moment too. That was not that interesting. Don't need that. Okay, cool little flyby here. It's chill. Nothing too crazy. But see, I'm just isolating all the best moments of the footage that we got. So that way I don't have to constantly be filtering, watching all of this boring stuff that, you know, happens between clips. And I know on this shoot, there's a good amount of moments where I actually recorded accidentally, and just because like I'm not used to shooting on a phone, so like sometimes I somehow would miss the record button and then think I'm recording. I don't know. When there's a lot of action happening, I guess that happens a lot easier. Lots of distractions. So you can see there's lots of like little clips that like were shot accidentally at times as well. So I'm just sorting through all of that, deleting it. And now one thing I want to mention really quick is you can actually go back into the media tab here at the first area, and then you can right click up here in this row, and you can choose the different column layout options here. If you make sure that usage is checked, then you can filter or sort all of your clips here based on how many times they've been used in the actual footage. So right now we can see that, you know, pretty much all of this stuff is used because we have everything in the timeline. But once we start filtering the timeline, cutting out all the garbage, deleting all the clips that we don't want, we can see what clips we're not using in our timeline. And that way we can go back into our Finder if we want and delete those specific clips. So I'm going to go back into the cut tab here. I'm just going to press play. So I think that this was a longer accidental clip here. Yeah, nothing much there. I'm going to hit S, triple delete. So I'm always pressing 2 to play. Not that big of a fan of this clip. I wanted to like capture his eyes in the mirror. It's too shaky. I don't want it. That's a cool little moment. We got a friend smiling. It's like a little genuine reaction. Let's keep that. And I don't know, maybe let's go in here. Let's actually just scale this up a bit, just because I want to like get closer to the emotion vibes. Cool little happy moment there. Here we got Bryn talking to the dirt bikers. I like that first part. Cool little moment right there. And keep in mind, my computer is running kind of slow. I think that there's a moment there, yeah, where Bryn smiles. Nice. He gives us a little laugh. That's dope. I really like that. Like, that's the thing. When I was out there, I was trying to capture like genuine reactions. That's what I find a lot of filmmakers that I work with. It's hard for people to get into the mindset of filming genuine moments. A lot of the time, everyone wants like people to act in front of camera, but acting is never going to be as good as like the real thing, right? Because it's acting. So I always try to just, you know, watch what's going on with the interactions in the group and just try to capture the real authentic moments, especially because we're shooting a little BTS segment for this as well. So I want to just capture the real moments that are happening during the shoot, just because I think it makes it so much more special. So I'm just cutting the little segments that are the most interesting. Here we can see the bikers like doing something with his hand. He's communicating with the other dude. So little moment there. I'm going to isolate that moment. Ooh, that looks cool. One of them putting their goggles on. And why don't we try to just give this some dynamic scale, then dynamic zooming. I'll just flip that so it starts wide. And then we got another moment here. So one thing I do catch myself doing even now every once in a while is pressing plus and minus on the keyboard, just because my natural instinct after like a decade of editing is to zoom in and out of my timeline. But then I catch myself doing that and I remember, oh wait, the cut tab, you don't have to do that. This is a cool moment right here. That's dope. I'm excited to sound design this video. I think it's going to be dope. And because the clips are all synced to the actual time, when we drag all the clips from the media pool into our timeline here, they're organized in chronological order. So you can see that this is the shot that I got, and then we can see Bryn, the shot that he got of me getting that shot comes right afterwards, which is nice because then we can build sequences and stuff really easy. When, you know, the clips that were shot at the same time are next to each other in the timeline. You don't have to reorganize things. Now, to be honest, in my normal workflow, when I'm not screen recording, I'm doing this much faster. I'm seeing like some significant lag due to the screen recording, but it's all good. So what I like to do at this stage is play some really good music. I like to play progressive stuff, some stuff that like takes 5, 6, 7 minutes to build up, and I just get in the zone. I'll, you know, just get familiar with the footage throughout this process, and also just try to think of like creative ideas that I could potentially do at this stage. You know, if there's like any transition ideas that come to mind, I might write them down or make markers in my timeline. Remember, we hit MM. We can make a marker anywhere in the timeline. So there's lots of cool little moments here. We filmed them jump like many, many times. So you could probably see Keycaster that sometimes I'm pressing 2, sometimes I'm pressing the space bar. It just depends on the situation. Doesn't really matter what you use to start and stop. It just, whatever's most comfortable for you. This is a beautiful shot. You can see him coming low to the ground there. That looks really dope. And you can see we're getting some nice motion blur, and that's because we remembered to throw NDs on the phones. We actually are using little GoPro, Mavic NDs. I'm just putting it, like sticking it right on the case. It actually fits in the case like perfectly. So we're using those, and we also ordered some NDs from Moment as well. And NDs just make the biggest difference. Like, honestly, it doesn't matter what camera you're using. If you are remembering to use the double shutter rule, then your footage is going to look a lot better than if you're not doing that. High shutter speed footage does not look good, especially on phones. So yeah, if I'm ever doing any kind of serious project these days, I'm always going to be recording double shutter. So the shutter speed is always going to be double what the frame rate is. This is a beautiful shot. Nice. We were like legit underneath these guys. It was pretty crazy. So rest of that clip, I'm just going to isolate that one moment of the biker in the frame. And then there's a cool little genuine moment of me right there. So let's try to isolate that out. It's a little bit harder right now because the computer's lagging. Cool little moment of me just laughing because the biker came like a meter away from Bryn. Don't try this at home. Definitely do not recommend. And we noticed that this kind of environment was just really good for the phone because there's not as much information that the phone has to work with. Like, you're not shooting in a jungle or something. That's just blue sky, white sand, and one simple subject. So we found that in this environment, the phone was actually working very well. So this is pretty much the process. I'm using the shortcuts 1, 2, and 3 to scrub through the timeline. 3 to go forwards. I press 3 a bunch. I can change the speed at which I move forwards. Q, cut left of playhead. E, cut the right of playhead. W, add a cut to the selected clip where the playhead is. So those shortcuts are really my go-to at this stage. They're what allow me to sift through all of my footage so fast and make my selects. Now, a lot of the time, what I would do is actually change my frame rate for all of my clips to 23.976 before I throw them in the timeline. But with this much footage in the timeline, I didn't want to go through that much slow motion footage. So I am just going through watching the real-time footage and making my selects that way. So when I do want to slow down a clip, what I could do in the edit tab is just select the clip, hit P, and get that to show me my clip attributes. I don't know why it didn't work the first time. And then I can see what frame rate I'm working with, and then very quickly just change the speed by pressing R and then setting it. So in this case, it's 60 frames per second. I can set it to 40% speed. Okay, so there's this one moment in my timeline that I think could work well with this other shot that we shot a couple days ago. It's of this dirt biker flying through the sky and landing over there. So I'm just going to copy this clip. What I'm going to do is go to my edit tab where I have my other timelines, and I'm just going to open up a new timeline. It was the Acro Day. So in here, I have some other clips that I would want. So I'm just going to make a new timeline. I'm going to call this experiment. We're going to use the project settings. I'm going to click create. And now I'm going to make a new timeline down here. And I'm going to select that experiment timeline, but I have to close it up here first. And then down here, I can open it. And I'm going to paste that first clip, Command V. I'm going to delete the audio because I don't need that. And on this Acro Day, we captured this one pretty cool moment. It's just going to take me a little while to find it. I'll just scrub through here. But basically, Chelsea's foot hits the camera. Oh, I think that's it. And it goes to the sky. I noticed this when I was making my selects for this timeline. And I was thinking that happened accidentally, but that could be a really cool transition in this sequence. So when I was out shooting yesterday with the dirt bikers, I thought, why don't I try to get another shot that would start with the sky and go into some action? So let's just see if this can even work, if there's any possibility that this could work. So we go up to the sky there. And we need to take into consideration the actual movement of the camera. So I don't think these are going to match up perfectly, but we're going to play around with this and try to do something. So we want to start in like full blue sky. So Q, cut the start of that. Okay, so we got blue to blue, but we can see that the camera here is moving. What direction is it moving? It's moving in this direction, right? It's moving in that direction. So we also want this camera to be moving in that direction. So let's try a couple things. First, let's flip it. See if that does anything in the inspector over here. Yeah, so now we can see which way is the camera moving here. It's moving in that similar way. It's moving from bottom to top. Now we got two clips moving in the same direction. So now what I'm probably going to do, try to seamlessly transition both of these. But because the camera movement is the same, and I can even animate the scale and position of each of these clips just to make it even more similar, I'll be able to stitch these together nicely, and it's going to be a really good transition from one powerful sequence of the film to another. So now that I have this new experiment timeline, this is kind of where I'm putting down my ideas. And with these annotations, the arrows, it's actually very helpful because sometimes even for me, it could be like hard to understand if something works. Drawing an arrow out like that to, very easily understand what direction the camera is moving will allow you to know, if both of these clips work pretty easy. Because sometimes it can honestly be hard even for me to like just get an idea if the camera movement is the same. But in this case, it is, and I'm stoked. So let's go back to the cut tab here. Now, because we have the new timeline selected, we're seeing the new one, the experiment timeline. So let's go back to dirt biking here. And I'm going to go back into the cut page here, and I'm just going to continue making my selects. So there you go. You guys have seen my exact process on how I make selects within the cut tab. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something new, and I'll catch you in the next one.